good to see everyone. I know she's up here shortly, but best of luck to Jen and her team as they start their spring season as well. But I'm extremely excited for the spring season, and I know it's going to provide probably a number of unique circumstances as we move forward. But I do know this. Regardless if it was playing a full, a partial, or the spring season like we have in front of us, NDSU's done everything that we can to make sure that the health and the safety of our players came first through all the decision-making. Extremely excited and happy with how our administration from the top down have helped us get to this spot right now with testing, our athletic training department, anyone involved with our medical needs. Our athletic director, President Rashani, all our administration have been critical in our ramping up to this date and to this week. Our players have done a tremendous job going all the way back to the fall when they found out that we were going to move the season to the spring. They did a great job in the classroom. They've done a tremendous job in the community still, and they've been able to maintain their focus and their energy. And this last 2 weeks, we've had a ramp-up period that we've emphasized. A couple of things. One, getting in shape, getting back into football shape. It's been unique having the holidays tucked right in there. Generally, when we start season, we're coming off a summer workouts with Coach Kramer and our strength staff. We try to utilize it to get our inexperienced players more reps, more looks through walkthroughs of assignment alignment issues that might come up. And then the last thing that we really emphasized was just the fundamentals and the techniques that are going to be necessary for us to navigate the next 12 months. And so extremely excited and optimistic with the energy and the attitude that our kids have had over the course of the last 2 weeks. And then probably the last thing I have to make comment about is, there has to be a level of balance that goes into the next 12 months. We're going to try to play 2 seasons in a calendar year. I probably have to go against my upbringing a little bit, where more was better, where it has to become more quality over quantity. We need to understand that this is it's not a sprint, but we need to maintain a good pace moving ahead. We can't burn our players out too early or extend them too much here in the spring with the idea that we're going to turn around in August and do it all over again. But I think we have a good routine and a good plan in place right now. So with all of that, I'm going to open it up to questions.
Matt, you've got 6 seniors that I could count on the roster. Can you just kind of talk about the guys that stuck around and some of those decisions that were made?
Well, I don't know if I want to say the word stick around. That kind of has a little negative annotation. The 10 or so seniors that decided to move on in their life all did after, a good conversation. Some of them getting married, jobs, schooling, all things that they had planned on. I'll say the pandemic stopped football. It didn't stop life. And so our kids had to make some decisions, and unfortunately, some of them chose to move on with the other things that, they had great interest in life. And I know, Andy Voyan went, he's in grad school now. Quinn Allo has an unbelievable job and is married. There comes a time when you need to move on. And so the young men that decided to continue to play or utilize this free year of eligibility, going to have to lean on them a lot for leadership. As small a senior group as we've ever had. But one of the great things that we've been able to do through the process is really try to speed up the leadership capabilities and the role of some of our juniors. Guys like Jackson Hankey, guys like Noah Gindorf, Phoenix Sproles. Those are just a couple of probably a dozen or so that have really elevated their role because they know there's a void. We don't have the 20 or 24 seniors that some years we've grown accustomed to.
Sure of all the details of the exposure you've had to the team and those workouts they've been doing, but what have you at least maybe heard about the role that Zeb Nolan has stepped into and your continued conversations with him as he prepares for the spring?
Well, the coaches have been present. We've been able to be there, falling under our NCAA rules, right, Colleen? We've been present for all our walkthroughs. Zeb's done a tremendous job. You can see the leadership in him, trying to be the catalyst for the skill position, the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight ends, being positive, demanding, and directing the huddle. I'm excited about where he's at right now. Of course, it's all been walked through. But he has an air about him, a confident swagger that I'm excited to see, and I think that will help with some of our more inexperienced players as we move forward.
Do you have any idea of a football schedule right now? Who you're playing, when you're playing yet?
The only thing that I am sure of, there's 2 different schedules that are out there per the Missouri Valley right now. It looks as if we're going to open up on February 21st, which is a Sunday, and it looks like Youngstown on both schedules is it's the same opponent on both. Otherwise, at this time, we're kind of playing it by ear with the idea that we'll kick off on the February 21st.
How frustrating is that, or is that just rolling with the punches on every?
Well, I think you got to roll with the punches to a certain extent. Of course, would you like to have greater clarity on who you're going to play and when? But then I look back at all the things we talk about. It's 1-0. Well, we'll just worry about the one that we have on the schedule right now, and whoever's the next week, we'll prepare for them at that time. But we have a lot of work to do before then.
Are you going to have, pitchers have pitch counts? Are you going to have snap counts, so to speak, for guys?
Well, we've always kind of had that. That's something that when I took over as the head football coach, we keep every special team, every offensive, defensive snap that each individual plays or takes part of, and kind of when they happen. And so it's something that we've already tried to utilize a little bit with some of our skill positions. And it might be something that we have to get into a little bit more as the spring goes on. I think where the adjustment's going to take place more is probably how we practice. I think that's where we're going to have to try quality over quantity, make sure that we're doing things that we can get off our players' legs, knowing that the next 12 months are going to be football, football, football.
How deep are you going to go on your depth chart here? I mean, does everybody have a shot at playing here?
If you had eligibility, I would find a way to use you this spring. So, unfortunately, I think Colleen told me before I got here you were out. But we're going to use everybody. We have to. It's a free year. There's no 4-game rule. There's none of that. So you already saw that a little bit in the fall. Sam Young, true freshman, every special team for us in the fall. So I anticipate there'll be some good competition. But our coaches, we're going to try to be as creative as we can. Again, trying to take reps off of starters on special teams, finding roles, finding situations that maybe a young player could fill for us. No, I think I would see that as every position except quarterback.
Matt, when it comes to practicing indoors versus outdoors, what would you say are some differences in safety precautions?
Well, I think it's the biggest difference is depending on our schedule, we are going to have some probably cold weather games. It would be nice to be able to get outside a little bit. A cold football is much different than in the dome, in the confines of the dome, or in the bubble. Wind is going to play a role, and just getting used to the elements. So I think it has more to do with just the operation, being able to communicate. If it's a 40-mile-an-hour wind, are we going to have to use silent cadence? How are we going to have to adjust to make sure it's going to affect the kicking game immensely? And so I think there's some things that we have to take into account. But otherwise, trying to be inside, I think, allows us better work because you take the elements out. And so we'll spend the majority of our practices inside.
Now, is there going to be some give and take then? I mean, if you played all your starters, you have a better chance of winning, obviously. But you can't do that now with 19 games in a calendar year. So do you have to, you know what I'm saying? Do you have to take into account that you may not be as good playing everybody?
We're going to try to be as good as we physically can. And, I think that comes into development. That's what kind of program we've had. And over the years, we'll continue to develop our young kids and try to utilize them the best we can. I think that's a little bit why we played the single game in the fall. We knew we could get 5 weeks of practice. There was tremendous amount of development that took place in that time. 18-year-olds can't act like 18-year-olds on the football field. There's a race to maturity. There's a level of there's a standard here at NDSU, and our work level has to past that standard. And that's what we're trying to get through to some of these younger players right now.
After playing 2 seasons in 1 calendar year, has that been the toughest transition playing in the spring, or what has been the toughest challenge?
I'm sure that will create a difficult transition down the road. I think the toughest transition right now, for me personally, as an individual who's pretty cut and dry, I like to know what's going on, is the fact that things change so quickly, and that's become the norm. There's been a level of unknown, just like with the schedules right now. So I've had to adjust a little bit on how I operate from a day-to-day standpoint.
Last season, you were the first D1 coach to go undefeated in your first season as head coach. How do you build up the program from there? Like, what's next?
Well, the one thing we talked about, we had a team meeting about it the other day, is we talked about burning our past and not thinking about what's happened in the past, not celebrating the championship anymore. It's over. We can't take that stuff with us into the future. We got to leave it there. And so the things we can take, Bison pride, our toughness, our togetherness, sense of pride, the conditioning that Coach Kramer has, those are the things we got to make sure that we pack every week to be successful. The accolades that we received, they've come and gone. We're trying to move ahead and worry about the 2020 spring season.
Matt, can you describe the decision to move Cordell to left tackle and Jalen Sundell to move to center?
Well, trying to do what's best for our football program. We're taking a young man in Cordell who's started 16 games in his career, a leader, not only with the Rams or the offensive line group, but on our team. I think there's tremendous respect. I think you take your best tackle and put him on the quarterback's blind side, and I expect him to have a great spring. He's done a tremendous job already in the ramp-up time of the leadership piece and coming in and hitting the ground running and being a great mentor to the young players. Jalen probably gives us more athleticism at the center position than what we've had in the past. Maybe not the sheer size. Carson was a tremendous center, and we've had tremendous centers going back since I've been here in 2014. Those guys got to be critical in all the things we do in our run game and protection. But Jalen does provide a level of athleticism that maybe we haven't necessarily had at that position over the years.
Probably block out and only worry about your own program, but over the last few weeks, have you been kind of waiting to see if some other schools, whether in conference or out of conference, were going to drop? Was that a concern? Something you thought about over the last few weeks or not?
It's always a concern. Probably the last time I've really thought about it in depth, I had American football coaches, FCS head coaches meeting, would have been a week ago, 2 weeks ago today. There's 120 roughly schools in FCS and only 60 coaches are on the Zoom. So that's discouraging because either coaches aren't making time to be worried about it, or they've washed their hands of the situation or are moving on. And so that's where I get frustrated, because I know we've tried to do, as I said in my opening statement, if it was a full season in the fall, a partial season in the fall, or in the spring, we're going to do everything we can to do it the right way here at NDSU.